There we go. All right. That way the people who miss us can watch it online. All right. So let's get started. So FlipCon is the name of the conference I went to. And it was drilled into us over and over again that the main thing about flip learning is the question, what is the best use of class time? So for obvious reasons, it's really not standing there and presenting to your kids. Your best use of class time is actually to be with them, doing one-on-one work, getting them to do, whether it be project-based learning or critical analysis, creating stuff, all that kind of stuff. So there's a whole bunch of better uses of your class time. So flipping essentially helps you to have that better use of class time. But the main thing that flipped learning really gives you is that deeper relationship. A lot of the guys at the conference were saying that essentially what they found was because of that increased face time, where you're not doing a lot of group work, you're actually doing individual stuff with your students and running around. And they were saying that essentially they got to talk to every kid in their class at least once every lesson, which then meant that their relationship with their students became a lot deeper, and they actually got to know their kids in terms of what they knew, what they didn't know, and in terms of just their interests and how they learn and everything. They got to do that a lot deeper, and so that was one of the things that they said is really key. So the key things that I want to just kind of run through, some of them I'll talk a bit more about than others, in terms of flip learning. So first thing that they said is make sure you keep your videos short. I think they said that about 30, 40, 50 times by keynotes and stuff throughout the conference. And they said that roughly, I think it's 1 minute per year. So if they're 7 years old, 7-minute video. If they're 12 years old, 12-minute video, but you're never going over the 15-minute mark. Okay, which, in hindsight, I think I have 1 or 2 videos that go slightly over that, and they're probably about 17. And these are kind of guidelines too. So they did say that, you can do these things, but before you do them, you want to make sure that you actually think through why you're doing it. Does it have to be that long? Can you shorten it down? All that kind of stuff. They did say too, one of the things you have to make sure you never do is then present the content. So if you tell your kids, we're going to do this flip learning stuff and you need to watch the video at home before you come into class, at the beginning of that, you're going to have kids that don't watch the videos. And they were very adamant that the one thing you should never do is then when your kids come and you go, all right, half my class haven't watched it, you should never then deliver what's in the video. Because what you're doing is you're going to tell half the kids that watched it that they didn't need to, and the ones that didn't do it that they're never going to have to. So essentially what pretty much all of them do is that they give their kids the video, and the first thing they do is go sit at the back and watch the video if they didn't watch it beforehand, and then you get started with the kids you've got, and then as they finish watching the video, they come and join you. And so essentially they're still going to get the presentation, right? They're still going to get what you're going to deliver, but they're going to get it in an individual space rather than in a group space. So they were very adamant that you don't do that, because what it does is it kills your flip. Because then the next week, you're actually going to have less kids watching the videos. You're not going to have more. Whereas if you have an active and engaging and learning environment in your classroom, then the kids will then go, oh, okay, I did have to watch it in order to engage in the learning. And also they're going to come in and they're going to go, okay, if I don't watch it, I'm going to sit there and watch it in class, and I'm going to miss out on some of the activities that the kids are doing. And so they actually then become more likely to do it. And most of them say that they actually have, after the first couple of weeks, most of them have well over 80% of their classes that do the homework. And they do say, there's always going to be kids that won't do the homework, but in reality, that's always been a problem. Every time we've ever set homework, there's always been kids that haven't done it. And then what do you do with those kids? And then what are you going to do if the kids are missing out on the video? The difference, they said, is really that you have higher stakes when they're missing the video. And so the kids then will learn that too, that it's higher stakes, that if they don't go and watch the video, that actually they're missing content, not just learning how to apply it and all those types of things. The next one is to be active, and that's the teacher. So you need to have active learning for your students, but you too, when you're in the classroom, flipped learning is not about kids watching videos and then coming in the class and you not having to do anything as they, work through a booklet or something. The idea is actually that once you're in the classroom, you're active. So even if the kids are working through booklets or whatever they're doing, you actually are walking around the classroom and engaging with each of your students. You're not sitting at the front behind your desk doing your work. You're actually walking around and becoming more of the tutor type aspects as you're walking around and helping your students with anything that they're struggling with. And that's also the same for your learning. Your learning should be active learning. So your kids should be having discussions and getting lots of work done. There will be times when they're less active and they're kind of doing, writing an exam style answer, exam style question answer type thing where they're doing practice writing. But really, it's about that applying and getting them active and engaged in their learning. So it's not passive learning, which is really what happens when, like what you're doing now, where you're sitting there listening to me talk. It's to be more active where they're actually out doing stuff. Another thing that I really said is key for people is that you plan for people to come to class with incomplete understandings. So there are going to be kids who watch the videos, engage with the videos, then don't understand them still. And, it could just be that it's a hard thing to understand. And so you've got to plan for those kids who come in, they've watched the video, but they actually still don't get it. And so what are you going to do with those kids that don't get it? Compared to the kids who do come in and they do understand it, what are you going to do with them? And then obviously the kids who come in and haven't watched it, they're off watching it. And so it's really about splitting your class up as they do that. And a lot of them said to me that what they would often do with the kids who had incomplete understanding is that they would then sit down with those kids and then kind of do a mini lesson with them. And then because the other kids who understood it could then move on to other activities by themselves. And then they would spend their time with those kids who were struggling. You want to include interactivity into your videos is the other thing that they said. So I'll go through some things later about ways to do that. But essentially, like the basic thing that's in the booklets that I've been producing for you guys is the Cornell notes taking method. So that's an interactivity with the videos. So as they watch the videos, they're not just passively watching them, they're actually actively watching them. So you watch the videos and they're taking notes. If you've got something like Office Mix or you've got ClickView or something, you can also actually embed those questions and stuff into videos so that when the kids are going through and watching those videos, it's going to stop for them at certain points and they've got to answer questions that you've put in there. And so it's not, even with the video, you'll find the kids who come in with incomplete understanding often, that sometimes they will interact with the video, but often they're the ones that have not interacted with the video. I actually went through with my class today, interviewed each one of my students, and I found the ones who were still struggling were actually the ones who hadn't taken notes and who I've been, hounding and pestering to take notes. And they're like, oh, I don't see the point. And I'm like, well, actually, it's stopping you from learning by not taking those notes. And they do say too that the research actually indicates that students should be taking handwritten notes over electronic notes because students actually learn better from handwritten notes. So there's a whole bunch of these key things. So making your own videos, because like if you're using my videos or you're using someone else's videos, it's a good way to get started. And they put this up on like a continuum of whether or not you curate, so take other people's videos, or whether you create your own. And often when people start, they tend to kind of create maybe 10% of their videos and they use other people's videos. But then as they continue with the flipped learning, they start to make their own. And what you eventually want is for you to be making about 85% of your videos. So you're still using some of other people's stuff, but really you want to be using yours, because one of the key things with Flipped is keeping that relationship with your students. And so you are still the expert. And so if you can make your own videos, it's actually going to be a lot better for your students' learning, because they're going to be used to hearing your voice, used to hearing you explain stuff. You're then the person who engages with them in the classroom. And so it becomes, that relationship gets developed and not lost through the use of technology. Next key is for you to teach your students to interact with the videos. So I think I mentioned this in the introduction video or meeting that I ran with people, was that in those first couple of weeks, you actually have to teach your kids how to take notes, or you have to teach your kids how to answer the questions that are embedded in there. So they actually, because all the students that we have are used to putting the video on and sitting back and just watching it. But they have to learn that it's not about watching the video, it's actually about interacting with it and engaging with it. So that can be teaching them to take notes, that can be with ClickView or a few other software technologies that we've got. You can embed those questions for them to respond to. But you need to teach them how to do that, because students are not used to doing that. They're used to being passive in their media. And so when they're watching educational stuff, you shouldn't be being passive. You should be being active, taking those notes and engaging. They also talked about getting your key stakeholders involved and on board, supporting you in your flip. So your key stakeholders are essentially your students. So selling it to your students, telling them about how you're actually going to get more one-on-one time with them because they're doing this. Talking about how they get control. So they're going to control the pace at which they learn. They have the power to pause you, to rewind you, to listen to you over and over and over again without you having to spend all that time saying it over and over and over again. So that's some of the key things you need to mention with your kids, that extra time that you're going to get with them. The more time you're going to have to do the fun, engaging things, and less time doing the boring, just sitting in your chair, this is useless type stuff. They also talked about getting your parents involved and getting on board with what you're trying to do. And so some of the ways that you can do that is actually to send home a flipped video for the parents that just kind of explains what flipping is. Particularly important to talk to your parents about is the whole idea that you're going to get more time with their child, more time to get to know them, more time to help them with the stuff that they're struggling with. You're no longer going to be sending your kids home to write those. I mean, you might still, but generally speaking, the kids won't be going home to write those long extended response answers to HSC questions as they practice. Instead, they're going to do that in class, where you're there to give them faster feedback, to guide them and stuff, as opposed to a parent who then tries to help their student but doesn't know the content. One of the other benefits for parents too, and you'll find it will happen, is that parents will start to watch the videos with their students sometimes, because they're interested to see what this flipped learning thing is, and at the same time they'll learn the content, and then they can help their children at home if they're struggling. And then really the key thing, because flipped learning is not about the videos, and you'll notice with my videos, a lot of them actually are quite boring and standard in terms of a PowerPoint presentation with my face on it. The key thing about flipping is actually what you do with your class time, and making sure that class time is rich, meaningful, and engaging. And so down the bottom on the left here is Bloom's taxonomy, right? And so essentially what you're doing is you're remembering and understanding stuff goes into your videos. And so the kids are getting the basic content through those videos. And then from there, you want to then extend them in class. And so most of your class time will be spent on applying and analysing the content. Hopefully you'll still get some time to do the evaluating and the creating stuff. And that will kind of depend on where your students are at. But generally most of your time where you're interacting with your students will probably be in that applying and analysing stage. You should then also kind of do, if you're doing project-based learning and stuff, then that's probably going to incorporate more of the creative stuff and the evaluating stuff. But it's really just giving you more time to be around to help your students with the higher order thinking skills. But generally speaking, I think at one point I showed this as a upside down pyramid where creating was the largest. But what they're saying from the conference is actually that during class, you actually spend most of your time, down here in this area doing your applying and analysing. You don't spend as much time. You will spend time doing evaluating and creating, but most of your time is actually down in the analysing and applying. So the other thing that I quite liked about the flipped learning model that they were talking about is, they said that often flipped learning is talked about as one of your options for teaching. So, they'll talk about learning by doing, project-based learning, mastery learning. There's a few things on that screen there that you can see. And people talk about flipped learning as just another option. But actually, flipped learning is not like that. Flipped learning is really about giving you the time to be able to do those other options. So if you want to do inquiry learning, project-based stuff, cooperative learning type techniques, that's a lot easier to do if you flip your classroom, because you get more time in class to help guide your students with those activities, which tend to be the more higher order thinking skills. The next thing is for you to provide your students with some choice. Really there, when you're looking at choice for your students, it's choice about their learning, it's choice about how they do stuff. So they actually showed this cool little scaffold type thing that was essentially just, this teacher had divided things up into sections. And so the take home information, the students could choose between whether they wanted to read a bit of the textbook, watch a video, or possibly do like a little research type task to find information. But they had a choice of how they did that at home in their Flip. Obviously the easy choice for them obviously is the video, but there'll be others that will choose to do the other ones because actually you tend to get more information to do the other ones. I know with my videos, they're quite summative and they're quite short. Whereas if you then went through and read my web page, I have multiple pages to address the same kind of content, which would take you probably half an hour to read through, whereas the video only goes for about 12 minutes. So giving them that kind of choice, and then when they come into the class, you can give them choice then too in terms of what they're going to do. So still on the same content, but then they choose between, you might give them a research activity. You might give them an activity they have to create something. You might give them, some past HSC questions for them to have a go at. But you're giving them a choice, and you're saying, okay, choose, one or two of these to then do in order to really extend your learning. And then they'd give them a choice in their assessment. And so that was, more formative assessment, but also in their bigger assessments. So in terms of your formative assessment, you would then have in there, if you're thinking about flipped mastery style, would then have in there, how are you going to show the teacher that you know the content, that you've actually mastered it? So you might have a couple of options, but then you'd also let them maybe come up with something. So if they were looking at, the different types of training methods or something, you might say, okay, so one method for you to show me how you know that would be for you to actually go come and show me a whole training schedule that you've created for someone. Or it might be to take a case study and analyze it and break it down. Or they might come up with something else where they're going to create some training sessions that aren't a whole schedule, but just the sessions themselves. And they might create 3 different sessions to show you, okay, this is a stretching session, this is a strength-based session, this is an aerobic session. And so then you can have a look at that, or they might even get the kids to go and engage in it and do the practical activity to show you that they know it. So giving them that kind of choice. And then I think this is probably the second time I've said this, is making your own videos, making sure that that relationship is being developed between you and your students. So at that point, let me give you a whole bunch of resources that they mentioned. Okay, so these resources, some of them are really, really simple and some of them are not. Okay, so by far and away, the easiest way for you to do a flipped lesson is to do Office Mix. So Office Mix, if you search for it on Google, you'll come up, I think it's mix.office is the website. And you download, it's just a plugin for PowerPoint. This only works on a PC because the Mac versions of PowerPoint haven't been updated yet. So you then becomes a plugin on your PowerPoint. That plugin then allows you, so you record the PowerPoint once you've made it, and that recording will use like what this is, where you can see my screen and you can see my face as I'm going through the PowerPoint. It'll do that for you. You can also embed questions into an Office Mix. You can upload it into your Office Mix space online. That will give you an embed code and a URL. And when the kids answer the questions to those questions that are embedded, it'll then give you a breakdown of who answered those questions, provided they log in. So your students will have to create an account for you to know who they are. So the students log in and answer the questions, and then it comes up for you. It'll have the students' names, what they answered for each question, and if it's a multiple choice question, you can set it so that it automatically marks. If it's a match-up question or something, it automatically marks it for you. And then you can have other ones where you're actually just having them write stuff where they're thinking, and then it'll record for you exactly what your students are thinking, which actually means that before you go into your lesson, you can have a look at that and go, okay, these kids didn't watch the video. First thing you're doing when they come in is you're watching the video because you didn't watch it. You then also have the information in there and say, okay, you guys you got 80% right, so you're pretty set to go on to the next activity. But you guys over here, you only got one thing correct. So straight away, I'm going to sit down with you guys and go over the bits that you didn't get right. And it tells you which answers they did put, so you'll know if it's something that you really have to worry about. You then have Screencast-O-Matic is another resource. So Screencast-O-Matic, if you search for that, you'll have a little, it's a website. I think you download like a small plugin type thing that just runs on your software, like on your Explorer or on your Chrome or whatever it happens to be that you're using. And it will record your screen for you. So that's not just PowerPoint then, and that works on a PC and a Mac. And whatever you're doing on your computer, it will record it. You can select how much of your screen you want to record. Generally, you would select your whole screen because it makes it a lot easier for you. You can choose for it to have your video in it. You can move your head around in your video as well. And then it will record everything that you do on your screen. So as you scroll up, scroll down, zoom in, all that kind of stuff that you do on your screen, it'll just record it as it goes. And then when you finish, it'll give you a video. So again, it's quite simple to use. The next one is Screencastify, which is very similar to Screencast-O-Matic. However, it's a Chrome app, so it only works in a Chrome browser, and that will do a very similar thing. The benefit of that is that it will also automatically upload and save it into Google and into YouTube if you choose to. So that'll do that automatically. I'm pretty sure Screencast-O-Matic will also export straight into YouTube, but I don't think it'll do it straight into Google. QuickTime on a Mac. I found out today that QuickTime will also record your screen for you. You don't get any kind of editing options with it, I'm pretty sure. You just will record your screen. But again, recording your screen as you go through and do stuff. Reflector is an app. Reflector is an app that you can get that will mirror your tablet or your phone onto your computer. I'm pretty sure that one's up here all free. Your QuickTime, your Castifies and stuff, Office Mixer all free. Reflector, I think, is like $15 for the Mac, for the computer version. And then that allows you to, when you write on your tablet on top of things, it will record it for you. So as you're doing those types of things, so it allows you a bit more, I suppose, easier way of writing on your screen, so that actually is a bit clearer and stuff. Explain Everything, that's just an iPad app, so you can put that on your iPad. It'll give you you can choose your background, so whether you want like just a plain white background or you want to have like a math grid paper or something, you can select your type of background and then it just records everything that you write. You can import images and stuff into it as well, and then you can write on your images and talk about what's in your images if you like, but essentially it's just a recording thing for your iPhone as you write and scribble, on your iPad as you do that. Camtasia is the tool that I use to make mine. So Camtasia, it does cost money but works on both a Mac or a PC. Camtasia is essentially a screencasting type thing like Screencast-O-Matic and Screencastify, QuickTime and stuff, but Camtasia has the extra added benefits of also being a video editor. And so with those videos, you can put call outs, which are if you've watched my videos and stuff and you see words and stuff fly on the screen and fly off the screen, when things get circled and all those types of things. I do that through Camtasia. I can just do circles and stuff on top of stuff after I've done the video. I can also, with Camtasia, change and overlap videos so they have multiple things sitting on top of each other. So Camtasia, I think that you can buy the education version, so make sure you tell them you're a teacher and stuff, use your school email address, and I think it comes at about $90 for Camtasia. And then there's also just your general video editing tools, so Windows Media Player, iMovie, all those types of things can also be used for creating your own videos. So definitely the easiest one, if you're going to have a go for the first time ever and you have a PC, I would recommend using Office Mix. It's easily the easiest, and you can take a PowerPoint you've already got, and just make a video of it. It'll take you as long as it takes to go through the PowerPoint, really, and then it's done. You just save it, and you can then share it with your kids. If you then want to add questions to it and stuff, it has that extra benefit, which is actually a really good benefit to it. You have to also think about where you host stuff. So Office Mix will host its own videos that you make. ClickView, if your school has ClickView, ClickView is excellent. I think it's actually possibly the best thing that you can have for doing flipped learning. So ClickView obviously costs a fair bit of money. It gives you access, though, to everyone else's videos that they've made, a whole bunch of stuff that's been recorded off the TV and stuff, all in there for educational purposes. If you teach something other than PDHP, if you teach maths, English and stuff, they actually have mapped it to the curriculum as well for some of it. But that allows you, similar to Office Mix, to embed questions and to get feedback from the students in terms of those questions and stuff. It'll also allow you to export those the results of the kids into an Excel file. And ClickView, the best thing about ClickView is if you have kids that do not have internet at home, if they are at school and you get them to download the ClickView app onto their phone, they can then actually download the videos that you make onto their phone as well, so that they're actually locally stored, so that when they go home, they can still watch the videos without using their internet. And so that works for all of your Apple and Android type devices, whether they've got data or not. If they can connect to Wi-Fi at school and download it, then they're set when they go home. EduPuzzle is another place to host it. So you would upload your video to EduPuzzle. EdPuzzle essentially allows you to put questions into your videos. PlayPosit is very similar, putting questions into your videos. And they all then just allow you to get that automatic feedback. So kids will watch up to a certain point, the question will then pop up, the kids answer the question, and the video keeps going. Google, even in Google, so if you have like Google Classroom or anything like that, if you set up a Google form, so you might want to do a quiz with Google, you can embed the video from YouTube, or if it's in your Google Drive and stuff, you can embed those videos into your Google form so that the kids can watch it, and then they've got the multiple choice questions underneath. And then just like all other Google forms and stuff, you get all that laid out for you in a spreadsheet with some graphs and stuff like that for you to look at, so that you get some data on whether or not your students have watched it, how well they've done in terms of their watching and learning of it, and moving on from there. In terms of hardware, so really, in order to make a video, all you need is a computer. Like straight away, you don't need anything else, just your computer, and you can make videos. So it doesn't matter what kind of computer it is, but you don't need anything else. Get going. You can use Screencast-O-Matic. If you've got a PC, use Office Mix. And straight away, make a video. You don't need any external mics or anything like that to get started. Most computers these days have really good mics. What you do need, though, is a quiet location. So if you don't have any like external mics that are really good, you just need to be somewhere where it's quiet, and your computer sound should be just fine. Even like at the moment, I've got my hands-free from my phone plugged into my computer, and that will, again, it'll improve my sound quality, but I don't necessarily need it. If you do want to, you can get cameras. So lots of different cameras. I intend to hopefully soon start making ones just straight off my iPhone. So I'm going to just get a little tripod that'll hold my iPhone. I'm going to get a Rod smartphone mic with an extension cord, which then allows me to stand quite a long way away from my phone. And it's just a little lapel mic. I was told that they are probably around like $50 to $90 or something for something like that. But you don't have to. Another type of camera is a little document camera. Again, not overly expensive, but what a document camera does is essentially it stands on your table and video's down. And so you would put some paper there, turn the video on, plugs into your computer, and then you can write on the paper that's there, and it will video and record what you're doing there. And it will also record what you say in terms of sound and stuff if you're going to do it through your computer. And then I'm pretty sure it also often comes with some editing software, not very great editing software, but just enough so that you can speed bits up, you can cut bits of your video out and stuff like that. Writing. So one of the key things when you're making your own video is for you to actually annotate them as you go. So, you know, if I'm here at the moment, I'm on whatever I'm on, PowerPoint, I just grab a pen, right? And I want to make sure that we're writing, right? So I can put a tick on there and stuff like that. So one of the things that they recommend that we do is, depending on what you've got, if you've got a touch screen, then you don't need anything. You can just touch the screen and write on it. However, if you don't, so for example, I don't, my Mac is not a touch screen. They recommend using a Wacom Intuos, which is essentially a little writing pad. It's a very accurate writing pad that you plug into any computer you like. It comes with a stylus or, you know, one of those touchscreen pens, and then you hover over it to move your mouse around, and then when you actually want to write, you just touch the pad and you write on the pad. Now, you don't see the writing come up on the pad. The writing comes up on your screen because it's functioning much like a mouse would. But it allows your writing to be a lot better and a lot quite accurate, because one of the things that I hate about writing is that if I try and write my name here, it's actually really hard to do that, you know, with a mouse on a Mac. So I plan on going and getting one of these after going to the conference so that I can actually write a lot nicer on my videos, which then makes my annotations a lot easier. And obviously I'm going to use a stylus too for that. If you want to go really high tech, probably the best videos I've seen as I was there and stuff is what's called a glass board. So a glass board is essentially, it's kind of like, you know, those old wheelie whiteboards that we have that you can flip around and stuff. It's like one of those. So it's got like a aluminium type frame that you mount a nice big chunk of glass on. The glass has to be thick, and it also has to be clear. You then put LED lights around the edge to shine through the glass. And then you use essentially kind of like fluorescent pens that you can use to write on the glass. You light up behind the glass and turn all your lights off everywhere else, because otherwise you get reflection as you normally would with glass. And then that allows you to stand behind the glass and you teach and you write much like you would on a whiteboard. And then when you're done, you're videoing that, you take your video to your computer, and pretty much every single thing I've seen in terms of editing videos will allow you to flip that. And so you're writing, you know, when I'm writing on it's going to come up backwards for the camera. But as soon as I flip it, the writing then is the right way around. I'm going to look like I'm left-handed, but I don't really mind that, because the students will be able to read what I've written up on the screen. And it comes across, it looks very professional. And if you are in the Facebook group and stuff, you would have seen the photo that I actually put up in the Facebook group for the main photo now is me standing behind one of those white glass boards writing Flip pdhpe on it. So that'll give you a bit of an idea of how that sets up. And then one of the last things I want to talk about is really about just getting connected into Flip groups and Flip communities. So obviously there's our Facebook group that I set up. Often on Twitter, there's heaps of conversations that happen. So there's one that happens I think it's Sunday night, that's #FlipClass, and you can follow through and listen to people and engage in conversations around that. Also #FlipLearning, they do a similar thing. Can't remember which night it is, but I'm sure those of you who are familiar with how to use Twitter can just search that and have a look at see when most of those are coming up and what time. A few websites that are really great. So fliplearning.org is essentially that's a Flip Learning network that is quite large, and you can join that. You can subscribe to it. People blog on there all the time. It's actually got research too around Flip Learning and how beneficial it is. So, you know, they were talking about how it improves not just student engagement and improves their enthusiasm and willingness to learn and all that kind of stuff. But they also talked about how it actually does improve their marks. And so there is research. There's not research on, you know, it's going to improve your HSC marks, but there is research to just say that Flip Learning improves marks. And so they've taken, you know, they've had two groups and compared them to each other, and the Flip Learning group, you know, did better. And then also other ones where they've had, you know, before I flipped, my average was this, and now after I flipped, you know, the average is, you know, and it's normally about 10% that it improves, and that's at the top, and then the bottom tends to all shift up quite a large amount. So because really what happens is that when you flip your classroom, your lower level kids really benefit from it because they can go over your videos multiple times, and then they also get that extra one-on-one time with you. This last one, Flip Global, flglobal.org, they actually offer training. So the main guy around flip learning worldwide is a guy called John Bergman. So he was flipping over 30 years ago. I think he started flipping his science classes, and he's really, and all he does now, I'm pretty sure, is travel around and present at conferences. But I've started doing his training that he's got online. So he offers a level 1 certificate in flipped learning. It's essentially, I think it says that it's 8 hours of PD online. And so it's a whole bunch of him, it's flipped videos. It's got quizzes at the end of sections. He's also got resources for you. So there's templates that you could use to set up your lessons. There's links to blogs that he has about how to really get your parents on board. He's got information about how to get your kids on board, all kinds of stuff within that certificate training session. And, I spoke to my principal today, and she's decided that, we're a brand new school with not a lot of staff, but every teacher at our school is now going to get that certificate, and it's going to be something that they have to do before they can even teach at our school. So once we just offered people jobs, and I'm pretty sure we're going to pay for them to go and do that course. It's $70 for that course for 8 hours. One thing that I do like about the course so far actually is that I can speed up the videos. So it's 8 hours if you're watching it at single speed, but I'd put them all on 1.5. I can still clearly understand what he's saying and follow what he's doing. And then if I get to something, I'm like, oh, what was that? I know I can pause it, go back and slow it down and watch it again. So that's quite good, because then you get essentially 8 hours of PD. It's not New South Wales BOSTES registered for sure, because the guy who's producing it is from Boston. But it's still good stuff, and we'll essentially go through a lot of what I've kind of outlined here in a bit more detail. Some cool, here's the last slide, I'm pretty sure, some cool ideas that I had that I picked up as we were going there was they were really big on just having public information and sharing stuff and really networking and all those types of things. And not just networking as teachers, but networking with our students as well. So a lot of them were talking about how their students have public blogs that they write as they reflect on their learning, or as they share stuff that they've been doing for the day or they've been doing for the term. Lots of the teachers that I spoke to there have their own blogs that are really just reflections on their teaching, and they talk about what worked well, what didn't work well as they've been flipping, and so they encourage us to do all that kind of stuff. One thing that a lot of them said that they do too is get classroom videos, and that can be as simple as walking around your class and videoing your class as they're working, to then go back and share with your colleagues and stuff and go, look what my classroom looks like now that I'm flipping. All my kids are engaged, they're doing stuff, and I'm getting the chance to walk around and talk to them, compared to the normal teacher who will be standing at the front and talking for really about 50% or more of their lesson will be spent doing that. He also encourages us, like, as you flip for the first time, he said at the end of your first year of flipping, he said that it's a really good idea to go around and get a whole bunch of your students and just go, what advice do you have for next year's kids who are going to get a flipped classroom? What tips do you have for them? And have them talk about it, or maybe even have some of them and just go, what did you like about the flipped classroom? What did it do for you? All those types of questions, so that next year it becomes easier to sell to your students. You can just go, look, guys, here's a video from the guys who did it last year, and they'll talk about what they enjoyed about it, what they got out of it, how much better it was when they watched the videos rather than when they didn't watch the videos. All that kind of stuff can come up. And then it also becomes something you can share with your parents, provided obviously that you have approval to use videos of those students to send back to parents of the school. So those types of things. And then just there is a lot. I did work when I was down there. There's so many people who are just sharing and networking at a massive level. Essentially kind of like this, in terms of what I'm doing at the moment with, you know, a group and lots of discussion around it, meetings and whatever else. There's even one of the guys who has started up his own Australian flipped learning conference that he does. And so his name's Jeremy LeCornu, I'm pretty sure. He teaches down at Brighton Secondary School in Adelaide, but he has already, so this year he did flip conferences in every major city in Australia, and he'll do the same thing again next year. So there'll be one in Sydney if you are keen to go and do something like that. Another great thing that I really liked was that people were flipping, just even handing out their assessment tasks. So rather than standing at the front and going over the assessment task and handing it out to the students, what he'd do is he'd email them the assessment task, or, you know, it would be on your learning management system. But then he would also do a video explanation of what the task was. And that way, if you have a kid who, you know, wasn't there when you handed out the assignment, they know where to go, and then they actually can have a video where you don't even have to sit down and explain to them what the assignment is. They can watch the video on that. And then they would do a similar thing with feedback. So if you're getting lots of kids who are giving you, you know, written or emailed practice exam questions and stuff like that, lots of teachers were then making videos. So as you're marking anyway, like you're going to be providing your students with feedback regardless. So what they would do is actually just set up a video. If it was electronic, they'd screencast. If it was a you know, paper version, they'd use like a document camera. And so they would just turn on the video and then mark. And then when they finish marking one, and they just talk as they marked, and then they'd save the video, next one. And they just send that video to only that student. So they might use their learning management system to do that, or they would send it via email, or, you know, if you do Google Classroom, you can just share the link with one student so that they then can go and access it. Or even if a lot of them even said they had files that were set up, and they would just, folders set up, and they would just put the file straight into that folder, and then the student could then access it, get their feedback. And then they made it really easy, really, for them to get feedback and fix stuff before they got their marks. Because normally, you know, you're going to scribble all over stuff and write a mark on it, whereas you can kind of talk and scribble and then turn it off, put the mark on it and put it to the side, and the kid can still go and fix stuff up. So I really like that kind of stuff. They talked about flipping PD and flipping faculty times too. So if you're a head teacher or something, just think about, you know, the stuff that you're going to just stand there and talk about, and that's been passed on from your deputies and stuff. It'll save people time if you can convince people to make a video of it in the first place and just share it with everyone. Because then it's not, you know, often what I find at schools is, you know, the principal shares it with the exec, who then share it with the heads of department, who then share it with the actual teachers who are in the classrooms. And it just becomes, you know, if one person made a video at the beginning, then that just filters down, saves everyone a lot of time, really. And then in your faculty meetings, you can actually do more of the planning of things, you know, get your programs done, make sure registers are doing, think about what you're doing next year, go through and critique assessment tasks and stuff. All that kind of stuff you then have more time to do, rather than just handing on paperwork, which I know none of us really like to do, and none of us like to sit through. So that's essentially it for that. And then any questions that anyone has about what I just went through, or I feel like I just spoke for probably half an hour, so didn't I? Nearly 50 minutes, goodness. So please ask questions. I'm happy to share anything that I've... Anyone actually going to go and make a video?
That was really good. I liked it. Definitely a lot of ideas to take on board. I think it's going to be a lot of experimentation to start off with, but yeah, it sounds like it's going to be really effective in the long run.
Yeah. And I must say, a lot of them did say, like, they started off and they would take a couple of lessons and flip them, and then they worked out that they were working, and then they'd move on to then flipping a whole unit or something, and getting stuff ready, and then moving on. And like, so they grew slowly, a lot of them. You do have the occasional ones that, you know, you come across and they're like, I came across it, I liked it, and I just went all out and flipped absolutely everything, all of my lessons straight away. which is going to really kill you if you're going to try and do that, because it is a lot of videos generally for your workload that you're doing. But yeah, I will always encourage people to have a go, especially when things like Office Mix make it so easy to do. Like I've made a few on Office Mix, and I couldn't believe how easy it was.
Great.
I just want to say thanks, Dan, for your passion for leading this, because I think it's giving everybody a lot of ideas, and knowing that we've got a little community going of people to support each other and share stories about how they're going, etc. So thank you very much for telling us all the stuff from Adelaide.
No worries, Claire.
Yeah, Dan, it's been a good session, mate, because my main question tonight was going to be, can you give me some platforms to actually start making some videos? And obviously after that session, mate, I've got a lot of ideas to have a look at now, mate. So thank you for that. Yeah,
and I think even if you choose one you've never used before, like so say you're going to use Office Mix or you're going to use Screencast-O-Matic or something, I reckon if you jumped on YouTube and searched up how to use it, there'd definitely be a video that just went, here's the basics of how to use those things. And I'm generally quite tech savvy, so I like to just grab stuff and experiment with it and see what happens and see how. And ones that are difficult, I'll just chuck away, and ones that are easy, I tend to keep. So definitely just give it a go. Like really, until you try it, you're not going to know. So that's great, man. I'm excited. I look forward to seeing it, James.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Me too. Mate, I think I found, I think I told you before, I got a pretty small class this year. So spending that extra time with the kids has been really good. Yeah. I think we've benefited most from all the past HSC, like practice HSC extended response questions.
Yeah.
Our kids at my school have always been weak with that. So, I can see just from now, their skills are really developing with those extended response questions. So getting to spend so much time on those in class and helping them work through it has been, I think that's probably been the greatest benefit for me so far.
Yeah, great. That's good. Anyone else got questions or comments they want to? It's all good. So hopefully, for those of you who are flipping with me, the factors affecting performance stuff is on its way. Produced 1 and a bit videos. You can see the first energy systems video. Actually, it's been up on YouTube just recently. So feel free to have a look at that. That's a PowerTunes video. So and I'm halfway through making the next PowerTunes video for that. PowerTunes seem to take a bit longer, so I might have to switch for the rest of the factors ones to get everything out on time so that people can start. I know some people are looking to start that the end of beginning of next week or end of next week or something. Some people should be roughly up to there. So I'm hoping to at least get that first critical question out for you guys, hopefully before the weekend. But we'll see how I power through all that. No worries. I know the booklet's already created. I've just got to do some editing with that after getting some feedback from Claire. But I'll looking forward to that will be ready, and then it's just about getting the videos up. So already the first two videos should be done by the end of tomorrow, and then there's really only 2 more for the first critical question, which I should be able to get done hopefully on Friday.
Great.
All right. Well, unless someone else has got a question or something they'd like to say, I'm happy to end the meeting, really.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your time. That was really good.
No worries. Please join us on Facebook, etc., Dean, and get in contact. I'll send you, if you send me an email or something, I'll send you links for our shared Dropbox that we've got, shared Google Drive that we've got, that's got all the resources and stuff in it too. And if you know pdhpe.net, my website, there's a link at the bottom of the page for teachers' resources, which has got Flip stuff in there to help you with your Flip learning as well. Videos, links to videos that are already done, booklets that are already done and stuff to get through SportsMed.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
No worries.
So Dan, just before we go, mate, that level 1, that 8-hour course, you recommend that? It's fairly beneficial, mate.
Yeah, I do. I can even show you what I think. So let's have a look here. Surely I can just share everything. Share. Sorry, man, I'm just looking. Share Safari. That's what I want to do. Share. So, all right. So now you can see Safari. This is just Zoom. This is my Powtoon that I'm halfway through doing. But this here is the course, and so it gives you a good. So first unit is why Flip. Second one is how to plan for your Flip. So making sure you actually think about what you're going to do in the videos, what you're going to do in your classroom, and putting that all together. So your essentially programming really. But this guy's from the States, so it doesn't quite look like our normal programs. But that's really what he's doing. He's going objectives. What are my resources I'm using? What are my activities that the kids have to do? What am I using to assess that? All those types of things. Then he talks about best practices. So I think if I click that, it'll drop down for you. So the 3 essentials, and he talks about individual space, which is normally the video space where the kids are learning by themselves, and then the group space, which is really what you're doing in class when you've got the students. Talks here about how to get parent buy-in, and if I go there, that's the video. Probably shouldn't do that. Won't press play. But the article's written to parents, so here are links, to things that he's done to support you. So one's a video, one of them is like a radio interview that he was involved in, and the other one is a blog post. So even there's 3 different ways to communicate with your parents about flipping, and then at the end of each unit there's a quiz. And so there's 8 units. So tech tools, so that's the stuff that you said that you were quite interested in. So he's just going through there, and he's got tips for how to make a good one. So keeping it short, all that kind of stuff, annotating, and then designing it and all the rest of it. And so then he goes, okay, you can do it from your smartphone. You can use a document camera, using screencasting. So that's Screencast-O-Matic, Screencastify, those types of things, Camtasia. Screencasting using a computer. He does it for a tablet, so that's Explain Everything. There's kind of a screen, is one like that. Talks about how to make one of those boards that I was talking about with the glass ones that you write on. He calls it a light board. And then video interaction. So this is about how do you put questions, so embedding questions. So we've got ClickView. Like my school doesn't, but in Australia, we've got ClickView. You can do it on Google Drive. I only learnt that actually by watching this. It didn't come up at the conference, but I watched that this morning on the way to school and went, I didn't realise that you can just embed the video into your Google form and then it's done for you. And there's lots of learning management systems that also will give you those kinds of questions. Office Mix, I think he learnt about Office Mix possibly while he was at the conference, because he was quite wrapped by it when he was talking about it at the conference. So then he talks about your learning management systems, because if you can make things, you don't want the kids to have to go, I've got to go and watch the video on YouTube, go and do the quiz at Google, and then I've got to go to my learning management system to get access to the booklet that we're doing. You don't want to do that. You want it to be as centralized as possible. So a good learning management system, and most of us won't have a choice really in what our management system is, because often that's decided by your principal and your top level exec. But if you can, if you've got Moodle, essentially you can put everything on Moodle, so that the kids just go to one place and get it all done. And then what's next? What to do in class? So he's got a whole bunch of videos about how to use class time effectively. So then he talks about specific subjects. So he's not going to do PDH because he hasn't done it in anything that I've seen so far. But there's stuff there, and I'd probably, the science stuff would probably be fairly similar to PDH, I think, particularly senior PDH. But but you can have a look through all those types of things. There's one there on other subjects, but I don't think that it's going to deal too much. He'll probably talk about PE, because as I've been reading his books, because he's in America, they tend to talk about PE teachers. So he doesn't really talk about health lessons. He talks about flipping your actual practical lessons, where you're giving kids videos that explain the rules to games and how you do stuff. And then when they come to class, you don't bother going through teaching the rules of the games. The kids watched it the night before, answered their quiz, and so they can just get straight into the prac. And the ones that come that haven't got a clue what they're doing, you just put them in a corner with an iPad or whatever you want to have for them to watch a video on, right? And they watch the rules to the game, and then once they've got it, they can go and join the game. And then you don't have to sit there and explain everything to everyone. And then assessments, so flipping assessments, grading, homework, all that kind of stuff. And then a whole thing on how to select the right technology, how to decide what's actually going to work best for you. And then taking the next step is probably about actually flipping a classroom in terms of, so they talk about what's called, so flipped classroom and flipped learning are essentially two different terms that mean two different things in the flipped world. So your flipped classroom is all the students watch the same video at home at the same time, come into class, and then you do all the activities together. Whereas flipped learning is kind of the next level of that, where the kids are actually working through the content at their own pace, including what they do in class, their assignments, their projects, and they submit them when they're ready, when they've actually learnt the content, rather than you try and often what we do, particularly with HSC content, is we're pushing through content, and so the flipped classroom model tends to be more what we'll do and try and keep kids at the same rate. But really, when we do that, it'll be a lot better than it used to be, but we're still going to have those students who are towards the lower end that struggle to keep up, and we'll still be holding back. In fact, we'll probably be holding back even more those kids who are at the top, because they're going to get that content quite quickly and really want to run with it and do those top level activities. And so the flipped learning, taking the next level, is all about how to do flipped mastery stuff, which is what I'm trying to do this term, is flip mastery for the first time. And I must say it's a big jump because it's just, you don't have them all together. And so I'm looking at kids, and one kid's asking me a question. So I got kids in sports med who are, they're on the last booklet and watching the videos around rehabilitation procedures. But I've also got kids who are just starting the second booklet and only just worked out, that they're doing, they're on children and young athletes. They're not on, they're not that, so they're actually quite a way apart from each other. And so I've got to run around. And I've actually found the thing that's been hardest about that is really identifying students quickly about where they're up to. And then, like today, part of the reason I went through and interviewed every single student in my class, I probably spent 10 to 15 minutes with each of my students today. And I think with one of them, I even spent about half an hour with them. And then that helped me. So I know now that when we come back and they're doing any kind of PDH, I've told them, there's a group of three of them. They're going to sit at this table together. There's another group of three that are going to sit at the other table together, because in my class, I've also got kids who are doing the compressed pathway. So kids who are doing year 11 at the same time as kids who are doing year 12. And they're doing year 11 and 12 in 1 year. So I've got to get them through. And then I've got my kids who are struggling with the year 12. Well, they're not necessarily struggling, but they're not getting through. Some of them have just been a bit lazy because they're individually working, and so when they're quiet and they're focused on their computers and writing stuff or whatever, it's part of you that half presumes, and you go up and you do a loop and all that kind of stuff to check on them. But I'm looking at it. So I'm going to put them together too. So and I've got to keep a closer eye on them, and I've got to sit with them and spend a bit more time actually teaching stuff, because really, I've only got 6 weeks of teaching time this term, so I'm only trying to get through sports med. But I've got to, with the flipped learning, because the responsibility is given to the students to do it, and then means that actually they end up, if they choose to, being very lethargic and struggling. And so I've got to make sure I get them a bit more motivated. And then I've got other kids that, they're excelling, they're doing quite well, they're sending me exam questions. I'm just going to make sure I give them feedback promptly. Very different.
So how many kids are you dealing with in that class?
So in my class, I've only got, I think 12 now. I think I've got one boy who just we kicked out. So yeah, I think I've got 12, and yeah, we're looking at so I've got 3 that are doing the Year 11, Year 12 compressed pathway. I got another group that need a bit more assistance, and then I've got another group that are doing quite well. So it's just, it's balancing that up and juggling where I am and where I'm putting my time and shifting my brain between content. It's really forcing me to make sure that, I know it in my head all the time, because, for me to stop and go, okay, let me look at the syllabus again, just to remember what those dot points were and what those dash points were. I know I just made the booklets and the videos, but I still, it's a bit like, I had one guy actually when I was down there that I quite liked what he said. He was talking about, and he's doing the Flip Mastery stuff too, and he said that he actually sets aside time with his class, so he'll do one lesson that's actually group time, and then one lesson that's individual as they go through the week, and so he'll kind of alternate, and then he'll change the ratio of that depending on what they're doing. But I quite like that, and so like today I spent one of my a session today going through and just really cahoots on the first booklet, and just went, all right, we're going to have fun for about 40 minutes. Then we're going to go through this and have a bit of fun, because it allows you to do that. At the same time, I did an entire formative assessment on my whole class for the first chunk of the first critical question, and so I can then look at that data, because Kahoot give you data too, and have a look and go, all right, my kids, they know that content, and I can then, the ones who are struggling actually know that, and I can move them on and tell them to go straight into the next stuff. Whereas if they don't have a clue and they're really struggling with it, then I know I've got to work with them.
Yeah, mate. Well, I mean, that level 1 course looks great. So I guess I put a couple of days aside in the holidays to have a look at that.
Yeah, mate. Please do.
All right, mate. Well, I'm done. I've got to write some more reports. I can't flip those, can I?
I wish, mate. I wish. Talk to your principal about it.
Oh, well, thanks for your time tonight, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. Anyone else got a question? No worries, Dean. No worries. All right. I'll end the meeting and I'll post this up on YouTube for the guys who missed out. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Cheers. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Dan.
No worries.